This is Brent Allen Winters, commonlawyer.com, www.commonlawyer.com, coming at you from the remote hinterlands, the Wabash River Valley, where the hogs, the frogs, and the dogs keep up the racket all night long. Well, the laws of nature and the laws of nature's God. The laws of nature, a significant slice, our Constitution of the United States, is a significant slice applied in a narrow way to govern of our common law tradition. We're going over a thin slice of our common law tradition, 274. Question. Catechism on the Constitution, Arthur J. Stansbury, 333 questions, 333. We're on 274. Here it is. May an accused person be tried in a different state from that where the criminal act was committed? This is simple. Let me read that again. May an accused person be tried in a different state from that where the criminal act was committed? Answer. No. Well, are they? Yes. They should have said lawfully. Our Constitution of the United States, being a brief common law government, requires that you are tried locally where the alleged criminal act occurred. Now, I don't like the way they say it, well, Stansbury says it, in a different state where the criminal act was committed. Well, wait a minute. Do you ever try somebody for having committed a criminal act? Is that even possible? Is it possible to try somebody and say, well, we're trying you because you committed this criminal act? Is that possible? And the answer is no, that's not even possible. Why? Because you haven't proven he's committed the criminal act until you try. You think that doesn't make a difference the way people talk? It makes a big difference. Stansbury falls into this trap here. I like him. You know I like him. That's why we're doing this. But that's not, you have to struggle to say this properly. Let me read what he said. May an accused person be tried in a different state from that where the criminal act was committed? No, that's not the way to say it, because that gives the impression that the man is guilty until proven innocent. Not where the criminal act was committed, but where it is alleged that a criminal act was committed. Well, I'm just giving, again, personal testimony. You get nipped, as I was, by the machinery of government, by the prosecutorial machinery of government, by a grand jury indictment, by a full-blown criminal trial, a federal case in front of the jury. You get thrown in jail. Oh boy, do you learn a lot. What really goes on? What goes on? Well, when you get thrown in jail, thrown in twice and thrown out twice, made motions, never convicted of the crime they put up in front of me. I'm glad about that. The jury's from me, and the jury was stacked, by the way, with people outside the district. This local business is where it's at, friends. Local. Juries must be drawn locally. Not only that, we are to be tried according to the Constitution of the United States. It says it. In a district where the crime is alleged to have been occurred that was established before the alleged crime is alleged to have occurred. Before. Why? Oh, well, we're teaching law classes, Sheriff Dar Leaf and I, and Sheriff Dar Leaf is facing this problem in his own state. They're taking people out of the rural districts of the state and trying to try them around Detroit City, where the left-wingers know they'll get a jury that will convict them. It's happening. It happens all over the country. Is it lawful? No. No. Unless there is clear bias because of something that's happened, a man or woman criminally accused has a right to be tried where the government has alleged the crime occurred. You know, you go to federal prison. Go to federal prison. I'm giving my testimony. You go to federal prison, what's the first thing everybody says to you when you walk in? Where'd you catch your case? Where did you catch your case? Catch. That's the way it's said. What does that mean? That means where did they, where are they alleging, where did they allege that the crime occurred? I defended in federal court one time a coal miner from West Virginia. A coal miner from West Virginia. I defended him in California. Attempted murder case. Well, why is a coal miner from West Virginia being tried in the state of madness, California? Left-wing wackos on the jury. I remember the jury foreman. He was a television producer. And what does that tell you? I remember the bailiff, or not the bailiff, but the, what do you call him in federal court? The guy that actually runs the court for the judge. He was bedding the judge. He, not she, he. Oh boy. I'm not making stuff up and being vindictive. I'm just giving you the facts. That's what goes on. Boy, oh boy. It's never what it seems in show business, friends. Never what it seems. You're looking at the outside, the facade, what they want you to see. Anything that's public is that way. Anything. You say, well, Brent, you're being public right now. Yeah, yeah. I try to comb my hair before I come on here and put on a clean shirt. I don't look like I look every day. Every day I don't look even, you think, well, he didn't look that nice now. Well, every day I look worse, whatever that is, because I've got an old shirt on, a pair of jeans, and shirt tail hanging out half the time like this. I'll put this one back up. This shirt here, Miss Francine, this shirt's made of some kind of real soft material. I don't know what it is. I should have looked, but boy, it's soft. It's heavy. But it does a good job on my glasses for some reason. I don't know why. I know you probably can't see. I think these are mountains on this shirt here. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think they're mountains. I don't know where they got the picture. Well, what was I saying? I was saying, oh, everything for public consumption. And there's nothing wrong with things being public consumption. There's nothing wrong, everything right about a fellow trying not to be distracting with his unkept appearance. I shave my mug, comb my hair, brush my mustache out a little bit so I don't, no, I look like I care. I don't want you to think I don't care, and I don't want my appearance to be distracting and you don't listen to what I say because I look like I'm just fell off of a turnip trunk and I've been drinking for 4 or 5 days. Well, no, I haven't been. I want you to understand that. But the answer is no. You're not to be tried in a different state or from a different district. And the states are divided into federal districts. And this is about federal. Our Constitution of the United States lies foremost and first to the general government in Washington, D.C., and all of the federal courts, not the state courts. They've got their own constitution, a separate sovereignty. Separate sovereignty. Yeah. Well, the accused person may not be tried in a state different from where the criminal act was committed. That's 274, 275. And Arthur J. Stansbury's Catechism on the Constitution. Suppose the act was committed at sea. An act, a criminal act, yes. Can you do a criminal act at sea? Oh, yeah. You can rob from your fellow sailors. You can rob if you're on a passenger ship from your fellow passengers. You can commit murder. Those things have happened. Or you can disobey the command of the commanding officer of the vessel. That's a felony as well. I mean, even in the smallest things, when you're at sea on an airplane, navigating through the air, you're under admiralty law. You're under admiralty law. I told people back during COVID, I never wore a mask. I wouldn't wear a mask. I was waiting for somebody to throw me in jail. I had a lot of confrontations. Oh, by the way, every confrontation I had when I wouldn't wear a mask, every one, and there were lots, every one was from a woman. I had no trouble from any men. Why is that? I'm just reporting the statistics. I was traveling across the country from California clear to the East Coast, back and forth, up and down, from Portland East to Portland West, and all along the line, as that song says. And I go into a gas station. I'm not going to serve you unless I have, and I'd say anything to get it done. I'd say, look, I'm going to give you here's $50. I'll go to okay, here's $50. I'll go to the car and get my mask. I'm going to go get my mask. I paid her the $50, putting the gas in. I'm out of there. I had other people just get downright ugly. One place in Idaho, coming across the border from Montana, deep into the mountains where the silver mines are there. Raining late at night. I went in, out of gas. Didn't think I was going to make it on down the hill. Crowded, truck stop, a lot of people. I walked in, everybody got a mask on, looked like doofuses, I gave her money. She said, we won't accept your money unless you put on a mask. I said, well, then it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but it could happen if you're just kind enough to let me enjoy my religious First Amendment convictions. Oh boy, did they get ugly. And then the whole crowd and the whole place started in on me. Why don't you just conform? I said, why don't you just mind your own business? You want to start a physical altercation here? Hope nobody touches me. It was that kind of a touchy thing. It got pretty airy. But in all of those cases, I never had a man do it. Had a man try it once in Butte, Montana. One man. Butte, Montana is a traditionally left-wing Democrat union town because of all the miners that they shipped in there from, more than any place else, Italy. The miners in Butte, Montana were Italians, most of them. You go down old downtown Butte, Montana, I'll tell you what, you ever go there, go downtown and go to some of those restaurants. Those old restaurants, a lot of them are still there. You got some of the best cooking in the world there. Yeah. And they're Italian restaurants, some of them, but they know how to put on a big feed. What I mean to say is the old tradition there was we're feeding the miners. These guys are working hard and some of them dying every day or two. So we feed them well. And they did. And they still have those restaurants there downtown. The mine, by the way, is still filled with precious metals, of course, copper. But the gravy is gold and silver. And I think there's still some things going on. But the restaurants are good there. But they are a Democrat because of the unionization of the miners. And so when you go there, one time I went there, stopped at I go through there, I've been going through there a lot over the past years. I stopped at a hotel and checking in, and I noticed the place is crowded. I said, what's going on? He said, well, this election day in Butte, Montana. I said, election day for what? Well, the big thing here is the mayoral election. Mayoral election. I said, well, what's the big deal? Who's going to win? Well, it's going to be a tough one this year. I said, why? Well, said, normally to be mayor in Butte, Montana, you got to be CIA. I said, CIA? Central Intelligence Agency. No, not that CIA. She said, you got to be Catholic, Irish, and alcoholic. And I said, well, wait a minute. Could that be Catholic, Italian, or alcoholic? She said, yeah, but not that many alcoholics or not that many Italians or alcoholics compared to the Irish. They take that as a badge of honor. Matter of fact, she told me that they say there in Butte, Montana, the only reason the Irish don't rule the world is because God made whiskey, and he made whiskey to keep the Irish from ruling the world. Well, I'll take her word for it just to be sociable. I didn't see that. I only heard just to be sociable. I usually take your word if you're the one telling the story. I don't quarrel with you about it. In most cases. Well, coming back to the Constitution of the United States and the Catechism on the Constitution. Suppose an act was committed at sea or in someplace not within any one of the states of the United States. Where would the trial be held? That's a pertinent question, isn't it? Where would the trial be held? Answer: wherever Congress shall have appointed by law. Listen, friends, in a common law country, our common law, this is the unwritten rule, and we follow it. And we've also put it into statutes and court cases. In a common law country, you are to be tried locally where the crime is said to have been committed. But if a crime is committed on a ship, admiralty law applies. There is no jury, and you'll be tried wherever the powers of admiralty law want you to be tried. If they want you to be, if you're on a ship, a warship at sea, and sometimes a non-war ship that's involved in moving war materials, and you're being tried for murder or tried for theft, you'll be tried right on the ship pretty quick. You've heard of men getting hung from the yard arm, in the old days, or walking the plank, all that stuff. That was admiralty law being applied at sea immediately. Immediately. If you're on a warship during the time of war, especially, but it could be other times too, and you're convicted or you're disobeying the orders of the direct order. There's a difference between a direct order and an indirect order, by the way. There's a difference between a direct order and an indirect order. A direct order could get you the death penalty. Oh, yeah. But there are other indirect orders that could get you the death penalty too if we're at war or in a war zone. When you're at sea, it's called captain's mast. It's martial law. Martial law at sea is called admiralty law, and all law of ships at sea is admiralty law, whether you're at war or not. And all laws of men that are mustered in military service, armies on land, are martial law. And in that case, it's just called martial law, but it's fundamentally the same as admiralty law. Admiralty law and martial law are fundamentally the same. And the law of the city, by the way, the law of the city, which governs almost every country in the world except the common law countries, the law of the city is fundamentally martial law. Martial law. Martial law has its lawful use. What is it? Armies on fields of battle, and ships at sea, and airplanes flying in the air. There are three places where martial law rightfully applies. And why is it? What do we have in common in those three situations that demand, our common law demands that martial law be applied? What do they have in common? Here's what it is. Disobedience to orders in those three contexts: armies on fields of battle, ships at sea, and flying vessels in the air, airplanes. Disobedience to orders in those contexts, disobedience orders could get everybody killed. That is not true here in our common law country, where we're not under martial law. Disobedience to orders in a martial law context, all experience of life over the centuries has shown, could get a lot of people killed. So when you're in those contexts, understand. They tell you to put on a mask and you think it's stupid, put the mask on. That's what I tell people. That is lawful. Down here, I go into a gas station, they tell me to put on a mask. That is not lawful. I don't care who said it. I don't care how much force they bring to bear. It's still unlawful. And we ought to stand up and say no. In every way we can resist that lawless kind of a work. But I told people who, some of them, by the way, I knew people that got banned from being on airplanes. I said, you did the wrong thing. That's admiralty law jurisdiction. That's what God wants in those contexts. You don't disobey in those contexts. And I say that as a fellow that was a sailor for many years. And give you personal testimony. I appreciate martial law in the right context. But what courts in America have jurisdiction over admiralty law offenses committed on the high seas, piracy on the high seas? What court in America has jurisdiction over that? State courts? No, not even that much. Not even a little. Our Constitution of the United States bars state courts from taking any admiralty jurisdiction, from taking any case that is about something alleged to have happened on the high seas, on a ship, in an airplane. State courts have no authority, and they don't. Well, then who does? The federal courts have exclusive authority, admiralty jurisdiction authority. They're only to apply it, of course, in admiralty cases. Oh yeah, they apply it, and they do. Until Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president, by and large, the federal courts had only admiralty cases. Oh, there were other things that come along once in a while. Yeah, so from our very beginning, we have those famous cases, but by and large, it was admiralty because there was not that much federal law from Congress governing Americans. No, state law. And the state courts that's where almost all legal business was conducted in America. And those rare occasions of limited jurisdiction, the federal courts. When admiralty cases arose, international law, states suing states, diversity jurisdiction in federal court, where one party is from one state and another party is from another state, they can get into federal court on that. In other words, cases arising under the Constitution of the United States, that's federal jurisdiction in a federal court. Admiralty is one of those because our Constitution of the United States grants exclusive admiralty jurisdiction to the federal court. So when you walk into a federal court and there is gold fringe around a flag in the federal court, what does that mean? Is that an admiralty flag? Yes. What does that mean? That means that court has admiralty jurisdiction. If an admiralty case comes in front of it, that's what it means. It doesn't mean that it has authority to apply admiralty jurisdiction in a non-admiralty case. But it does mean that it has admiralty jurisdiction if a case is brought in admiralty and it has admiralty jurisdiction. It's patriot mythology, all this noise I used to hear, especially 20, 30, 40 years ago about, oh, there's a gold fringe flag in the court, that's admiralty jurisdiction. Okay, that's right. But what else were people saying? They were saying, well, that means that there is no common law in the court. That's not true. That is not true. How do I know? I've practiced in federal court. Not only have I defended people in federal court with a jury, and if there's a jury, it's not admiralty jurisdiction. A jury only our common law uses a jury. I participated in what we call captain's mast. If it's with armies, it's called a drumhead court. On the spot, on the field of battle, the old man holds court and delivers the verdict. Death, or the brig, or whatever, right on the spot. No appeal, no jury. I participated in those kind of tribunals called a drumhead court. Used to, they'd take, in the old days, they'd take in the armies, have drummers, they'd take a drum, turn it upside down or right side up. So the old man, the commanding officer, could lay the papers on the drum head. He'd hold court right under a tree with a drum as a desk. On the ship, the old man, the commanding officer, the skipper would go to the mainmast, the mainmast, they'd call it, the mizzenmast, the one in the middle. somewhere on the ship where everybody could see, and he would hold court right there, right then, hear testimony, witnesses, make his decision. I've seen it happen. I've been there where the old man, and you don't have a right to counsel. No, you're there by yourself, defending yourself. The old man say 3 days on bread and water. 3 days on bread and water in the brig with the Marines, abusing you for 3 days. 30 days in the brig, the Marines abusing you. Dishonorable discharge, whatever he wants to do according to the code, but no common law, no jury, no right to remain silent, none of that in martial law. That's why it's important that we keep martial law confined to armies, our armed forces, and to crimes and felonies, as our Constitution says, crimes and felonies committed on the high seas. 276. Ought all the public acts of a state and all of its courts and officers to be recorded in writing? Are all the public acts of the general government in Washington, D.C., the federal government, that's what our Constitution governs, and all of its courts and officers, is it to be recorded in writing? Answer: certainly. Yes, without question. As though, oh, that's easy. That's what he says. Not only to preserve a remembrance of them, but that those persons who are affected by these acts may be able to show proof of them, and if injured, to obtain redress. Oh, I can't stress this enough. Our common law tradition, that's what he's talking about here, is fundamentally oral. Oral. The law of the city tradition and the tribunals and that fundamentally in writing. But you get tried for they're not really tried for a crime. They're just put you in front of the court, and the different sides in the court, they trade papers, they write stuff to each other. Very little is done in open court where you talk. Our common law tradition is oral. We get in court and we have what we call in our Constitution the confrontation clause. Confront. What does confront mean? Now, frontus, that's a Latin word. It means forehead. Confront means to bang foreheads. That's what it means. We get into court, it's in person, and we confront each other in person. There's a dynamic there you don't get when you're trading papers back and forth and reading what each other says. And not only that, if you're trading papers back and forth and reading what each other says, does the public get to watch what's really going on? No. In other words, there is no public trial. To be a public trial, it has to be in person. There is no other option. Do you realize, listen to me, friend, the devil's clever. COVID, one of the things about COVID that the evil empire was trying to do is get rid of confrontation in open court. If there's no confrontation in open court, there's no jury trial. If there's no confrontation in open court, it's not open to everybody can see if it's being done properly. If there's no confrontation in open court, there's no cross-examination of witnesses against you. You have no real way to protect yourself if you're falsely accused. If there's no confrontation in open court, it has to be oral. It has to be spoken. We have to have the opportunity to intimidate one another, to tick one another off in person, because without a fight, again, if there is no confrontation, there is no fight. If there's no fight, the truth will inevitably remain buried. Unless you can embarrass somebody, confuse them, trick them in cross-examination, the truth will remain buried. Just like it says in Romans chapter 1 in the Bible. It says it right there, that the truth is buried. Now, this is the winterized version, and it's really what it says. The truth is buried under an overburden of wrong-headedness. Wrong-headedness. Anything worthwhile is under an overburden, my friends. Anything worthwhile Doesn't come easy. You got to go at it hard and ugly sometimes if it's worthwhile. You want to mine gold? It's going to take a lot of work and you're going to suffer. You're going to pay a lot. Your knuckles are going to get busted up. You're going to get tired and sore, and your eyes are going to get red from the dust. You're going to get in danger of tarantulas and rattlesnakes, rattlers, scorpions, and poisonous, as they say here, poisonous centipedes. You're going to struggle. And the closer you get to the truth, the more it will resist. I've cross-examined people. And the lawyer for the person I'm cross-examining would say, "Objection, Your Honor. He's trying to do this, that, and the t'other," and they'll say it ain't right, whatever it is. He's not getting at the truth. He's going off on this. My response is, no, that's why you're upset. I am getting at the truth. And usually that's what I'm trying to get at the truth. That it has to come under adversity. It doesn't come any other way. I had a guy call me one time, said, "My son is in trouble." I said, "What happened?" "Miss Francine, would you get a song ready?" A song? "My son." "Well," I said, "What happened?" "Well, he's in high school, and him and this other fellow, who was son of the local judge, the other fellow was, by the way. You know, boys, like we said, one boy's got a brain, two boys got half a brain, three boys together, you got a third of a brain. It gets worse from there. Well, two of them, they had a half a brain. One of them was the judge's son. The other one was my buddy's son. I wasn't buddies with the judge, but I knew him. Nice enough fellow. But you get into court with people and you get to be pretty adversarial. And he'd done some things to me I didn't particularly appreciate. Why? Because it's adversarial. We fight. Yeah, we push the limits. Well, he said, they're trying to convict my boy. And so I said, well, let me talk to him. And I knew the kids, his little boy. And I said, listen, just tell me straight up, I'm your lawyer. And once you tell me, it stays with me. But I got to know, did you do it? He said, absolutely not. No, I didn't do that. And he's a good kid, by the way. Good kid. By the way, he's doing really well now. He's grown, pushing 30. Is that right? At least 30. Very successful. But no, you're telling me the truth, son. Yep. Man, I never did that. These guys are trying to, on and on it went. I called the prosecutor for the school. He was a typical bureaucrat and intimidating. And I went back to him. I said, now assure me you didn't. I can help you, but you got to tell me the truth. If you don't, I can't make it work. I mean, if there's a defense, I'll give it to you. I didn't do it. Looked me straight in the eye. I did not do it. Tears. You know what I found out later? He did it. Good kid otherwise. Now, I said a while ago, there are no good people. Of course there are. We're all wound up and bound up in our own whims and difficulties like him. He was growing up, he was trying to be a man. He was scared half to death. He'd been a boy doing things he had nothing to do, but at the same time, there was no harm in it. It was adventure. He was looking for that, as a young man does, young boy. But it took a lot of adversity to get him to bob forth with the truth. And once he did, everybody was willing to work together and get these boys back on the right track, of course. This is Brent Howell Winters, commonlawyer.com, www.commonlawyer.com, coming to you, coming at you from the remote hinterlands of the Wabash River Valley, where the hogs, the frogs, and the dogs keep up a racket all night long.